Hello guys, we are back again with the case of the disappearance of Maura Murray. A Goldilocks narrative analysis. So we're going to look at what the Goldilocks narrative for this case looks like. And again, we're demonstrating this method, which in a way is also demonstrating how you can understand the world without belief. So there's even a higher level sort of idea behind this, but for now we're going to focus just on this case. We're going to talk about it, and then we're going to see what that narrative suggests. Introduction. On the evening of February 9th, 2004, 21-year-old nursing student Maura Murray crashed her 1996 Saturn into a snowbank on Route 112 near Haverhill, New Hampshire. A passing school bus driver stopped to offer assistance. When police arrived approximately 4 minutes after the 911 call, Maura was gone. No confirmed sighting of her has ever been verified. Over the 2 decades since her disappearance, the case has generated an extensive ecosystem of competing theories. Most analyses evaluate these theories based on intuition or narrative appeal rather than logical rigor. This document applies the Goldilocks narrative framework to the Murray case, a structured methodology requiring the analyst to identify the theory that accounts for the most evidence with the fewest assumptions. The Goldilocks narrative is the explanation that fits just right. Neither too simple, ignoring real evidence, nor too complex, requiring improbable coincidences or Occam's razor stacking atop each other. In its essence, Occam's razor formalized into a repeatable investigative tool. So, it can't be too simple nor too complex, because the simplest narrative wouldn't necessarily provide sufficient explanatory power, right? So you're balancing these two things. You're trying to get as much simplicity as you can, while at the same time being able to explain all of the evidence. And that's what we mean by Goldilocks and, the explanation that fits just right. This analysis concludes that the Goldilocks narrative for the Murray disappearance is: Maura Murray voluntarily boarded Butch Atwood's school bus in an effort to avoid a DUI arrest, intending a temporary, not permanent, disappearance. This analysis concludes that the Goldilocks narrative for the Maura disappearance is: Maura Murray voluntarily boarded Butch Atwood's school bus in an effort to avoid a DUI arrest. There's some history behind this. We'll talk about that. Intending a temporary, not permanent disappearance. The evidence inventory. The following is a pre-theoretical, neutral inventory of the primary evidence items in this case. No theory is attached to any item at this stage. Background and pre-incident behavior. Maura Murray was a 21-year-old nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, UMass. She had a prior DUI conviction on her record. In the early hours of February 9, 2004, she searched MapQuest for directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont. That afternoon, she emailed her professors and nursing supervisor, stating she needed a week off due to a family death. No family member had died. She packed the majority of her belongings into boxes and loaded them into her car, leaving her dorm room nearly empty. She withdrew nearly all the funds in her bank account, approximately $280, from an ATM before departing campus. She had blank accident report forms in her vehicle, consistent with awareness of a minor collision she had been involved in the previous night while driving her father's car. So note the timing here. This accident with the father's car was just before this happened. So we'll have relevance in a minute. She purchased alcohol from a liquor store before departing. Evidence consistent with alcohol consumption was found in the vehicle after the crash. She had no confirmed destination. The MapQuest directions and a condo inquiry suggest she was considering the White Mountains region of New Hampshire, an area she had previously vacationed in with family. She was in an ongoing relationship with her boyfriend, Billy Roche, stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Maura's behavioral history suggests a consistent pattern of rule breaking, followed by successful accountability evasion. This is important. Maura's behavioral history suggests a consistent pattern of rule breaking, followed by successful accountability evasion. She wrecked a vehicle while intoxicated and avoided serious legal consequences. She was implicated in a theft incident at her university without meaningful disciplinary outcome. Across multiple incidents, she demonstrated an apparent facility for managing the aftermath of misconduct. Across multiple incidents, she demonstrated an apparent facility for managing the aftermath of misconduct, absorbing it, deflecting it, and continuing. This pattern is directly relevant to her behavior at the crash scene and supports the DUI avoidance motive. Disappearing temporarily to sidestep immediate consequences was not an improvised act of desperation. It was consistent with how she had always operated. The crash scene. At approximately 7:27 p.m., Maura's Saturn left the roadway on Route 112 and struck a snowbank. The damage was moderate. The car remained on the road surface and was not severely disabled. Faith Westman, a nearby resident, heard the crash and called 911 at 7:27 p.m. She observed the car and reported seeing what she initially described as a man smoking a cigarette near the vehicle. She later revised this to uncertainty about the person's gender, noting that the red glow may have been from a cell phone. Virginia and John Morant, neighbors, observed the crash from their kitchen window. They saw a person moving around the car with its hazard lights on. At approximately 7:33 p.m., Butch Atwood, a local school bus driver returning home from dropping off skiers, arrived at the scene in his full-size school bus. He parked alongside the Saturn, with the bus parallel to the car. This position blocked the Westman's sight lines to the Saturn entirely. In fact, given the layout of this area, what it means is that on the opposite side there of the car, so you got the bus on one side, and then on the opposite side of the car, you have a bunch of woods. Bus being as long as it is, when it pulls up next to that car, it pretty much completely concealed the car. I mean, no one would have been able to see that because they'd have had to been in the woods to see what was going on at the car at that point. Very important. Atwood spoke with Maura. He later gave two slightly different accounts. In one, he spoke with her through the open bus door. In another, he exited the bus and spoke with her over the roof of the car. In both accounts, she appeared shaken but uninjured. Atwood offered to call police. Maura explicitly asked him not to. According to at least one police log, she begged him not to call. She said she had already called AAA. No cell service was available in that area in 2004. Maura could not have called AAA. Her cell phone records show no calls placed after the early afternoon. Atwood offered to let Maura wait at his nearby home. She declined. This is all based on what Atwood is telling us, okay? Atwood offered to let Maura wait at his nearby home. That's probably true. She declined, not so sure about that. Atwood drove his bus approximately 1/10 of a mile east to his home driveway. He stated he could not see the crash site from his home. His wife called 911 at 7:43 p.m. When the bus departed, it restored the Westman sightline to the crash area. After the bus departed, activity was observed near the Saturn, but the specific nature and identity of the persons involved was not definitively established in witness accounts. Police response and scene findings. Officer Cecil Smith arrived at the scene at approximately 7:46 p.m. approximately 4 minutes after the 911 call from the Atwood residence, and approximately 7 to 9 minutes after Atwood left. The Saturn was abandoned. Maura was gone. No one was seen walking away in any direction. The Saturn was abandoned. Maura was gone. No one was seen walking away in any direction. Activity around the car after the bus left probably is tied up with and possibly confused with the presence of the police as they started arriving. But anyway, the Saturn was abandoned. Maura was gone. No one was seen walking away in any direction. That's important. You see, we have to account for where Maura was at each second this is occurring. And what we're seeing is there is no accounting for Maura other than if she's on the bus. The car doors were locked. The keys were missing. Smith found a box of Francia wine, an empty beer bottle, and a Coke bottle containing red liquid with an alcohol smell. Red wine stains were found on the driver's side door, the ceiling, and the road surface. Also found in the vehicle, Maura's AAA card, blank accident report forms, gloves, CDs, makeup, diamond jewelry, directions to Burlington, a stuffed animal, and a copy of Not Without Peril, a book about mountain climbing in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Missing from the vehicle, Maura's debit card, credit cards, and cell phone. Some purchased alcohol was also not found. So we can see what was important to her, right? Debit cards, credit cards, and cell phone. Yep. Oh, and a little booze, too. A rag was found stuffed in the tailpipe of the vehicle. I think that's irrelevant. This is something she was doing because of the way the car was acting. I don't think that really is significant. The simplest explanation is that it was just something she was doing that her dad had suggested she could do to make the car run better. Probably not true, but that's the backstory. A police dog subsequently tracked Maura's scent approximately 100 yards east of the crash site toward the Atwood residence before losing the trail. A police dog subsequently tracked Maura's scent approximately 100 yards east of the crash site toward the Atwood residence before losing the trail. Now, this would be moving up the road, out in the open where everyone could have seen her. Everyone meaning the witnesses there, the police. I mean, whoever was there would have seen her walking up that road. This is probably a scent picked up while she was still on the bus that faded out as the bus continued down the road. This is in the direction the bus would have been going. The scent, a human scent can be picked up inside of a vehicle for a short distance. It depends on the type of vehicle and how it happens, and the dog and all kinds of factors. No footprints were found in snow at the scene, though road conditions and surface type may have limited print preservation. The Atwood factor. Atwood submitted to 2 polygraph examinations during the investigation. He passed 1. The second was inconclusive. And this is what happens, when police do polygraphs. What it means is they think you did it. That's the only reason they do that. Polygraphs are useless. They just use that to intimidate people. Polygraph examinations are not scientifically validated instruments and are not admissible as evidence in most jurisdictions. Their results are considered neither exculpatory or inculpatory within a rigorous evidentiary framework. Atwood's account of events has minor internal inconsistencies across different tellings, particularly regarding whether he exited the bus and where exactly Maura was standing. Atwood stated he could see other vehicles passing on Route 112 from his porch while on the 911 call, but could not see the Saturn itself. Geographic and environmental context. Route 112 at the crash location is an open stretch of road. There is no dense roadside cover immediately adjacent to the crash site that would conceal a person on foot. Temperature on the evening of February 9th, 2004 was in the low 20s Fahrenheit, and wind chill making conditions significantly colder. Snow was present on the ground. The roadway itself was clear. The surrounding terrain, while mountainous, presents significant survival risk for an unprepared person moving cross-country in those temperatures. The Atwood home is approximately 100 yards east of the crash site along Route 112. The school bus was parked in the driveway. So, guys, this is kind of telling us, she probably didn't just run off into the woods, right? In these conditions, that's very unlikely. And plus, she's not going to take some booze with her and run through the woods either. That's another thing that's interesting, is she took booze with her. Well, if you're trying to get away, and you're not in a car, someone's not driving you away, you're going to have to walk away. Are you really going to carry the booze with you in those conditions, walking away? I mean, she might have really loved her alcohol, but I doubt it. Okay. Theory inventory. The following theories have been advanced in the Murray case. All are included for evaluation. No theory is pre-filtered. Theory A, Maura walked away on foot into the surrounding terrain, either becoming lost and dying of exposure or surviving in a remote location. Maura was picked up by a passing vehicle, either voluntarily accepted a ride from a stranger, or involuntary abducted. Theory C, Maura voluntarily boarded Butch Atwood's school bus, and Atwood transported her away from the scene. Theory D, Maura staged her disappearance deliberately and has been living under an assumed identity. Note that Theory B, voluntary, and Theory B, involuntary, are treated as separate sub-theories for scoring purposes due to their different assumption profiles. Evidence mapping and assumption analysis. Theory A, walked away on foot. For Theory A to hold, the following must simultaneously be true. Maura moved through an open area in freezing temperatures without being observed by Faith Westman, the Merritts, or any passing motorist. She moved away from the road, the only rational source of warmth and help, in conditions that made exposure lethal within a short time frame. Despite extensive aerial searches, cadaver dogs, and ground searches over subsequent days and weeks, no remains, clothing, or trace evidence was found in the surrounding terrain. The police dog tracked her scent east toward the Atwood residence, not into the woods. You see, guys, she didn't run into the woods. That much is clear. Her last movement was toward Butch Atwood's house. That's what we know. Theory A requires multiple simultaneous failures of observation in an open environment, a behaviorally irrational decision to move into lethal terrain, and an absence of physical evidence despite extensive searching. Assumption count is high. Explanatory coverage is low, as it fails to account for the direction of the scent trail, the absence of any remains, and the witness observation gap. Theory B, involuntary, abduction by passing vehicle. For Theory B, involuntary to hold, a vehicle must have passed during the narrow window between Atwood's departure and Smith's arrival, approximately 4 to 7 minutes. The vehicle must have stopped, and its occupants must have physically subdued Maura at the roadside. This must have occurred without being observed by Faith Westman, who had restored sightlines after the bus departed. The entire event, approach, struggle, loading, must have been completed in minutes. Theory B, involuntary, requires lucky timing, a specific type of passing vehicle, successful unobserved abduction in an open area, and no forensic trace at the scene. Assumption count is moderate to high. Theory B, voluntary. Accepted ride from passing vehicle. For Theory B, voluntary to hold, a vehicle must have passed the narrow window after Atwood left. Maura must have flagged it down or accepted spontaneous offer of assistance from a stranger. This occurred without witness observation despite restored sightlines. The driver has never come forward despite the case receiving national attention. Theory B, voluntary, requires the right vehicle at the right moment plus a behavioral decision inconsistent with Maura's explicit rejection of help from Atwood minutes earlier. Think about this. Theory B, voluntary, requires the right vehicle at the right moment plus a behavioral decision inconsistent with Maura's explicit rejection, if we assume that's the case, of help from Atwood minutes earlier. If she refused help from a known local neighbor, why would she accept help from an unknown passing stranger? Assumption count is moderate. Internal behavioral consistency is low. It's important to pay attention to this, guys, because this is telling you clearly what's more likely here. Theory C, voluntarily boarded Atwood's bus. For Theory C to hold, only one foundational assumption is required. Maura made a decision to board the bus while Atwood was already present and parked alongside her vehicle. This single assumption requires no lucky timing, no additional actors, no behavioral contradiction. She was avoiding police and the bus offered immediate exit before police arrived, and no unobserved public event. The bus was already there. The decision required only that she change her mind in the interval between Atwood's offer and his departure. She was desperate to get the hell out of there. She didn't want a DUI. She knew the police were coming. The obvious thing to do would be to get on the bus. Make up whatever story you have to and tell the guy, just take me up to your house. And this is consistent with Maura Murray's behavior of avoiding accountability. I think we'll talk more about that in a minute, too. Theory C was also naturally explains the direction of the police dog's scent trail, east toward the Atwood property, which has never been satisfactorily explained by any other theory. Guys, she wasn't walking up the street. She would have been seen by multiple witnesses. It was out in the open. It's very unlikely that she walked up that street. She was in a vehicle, and it probably wasn't a car, because of the fact that the scent was still maintained. Still tracked. Theory C also naturally explains the direction of the police dog's scent trail, east forward to the Atwood property, which is never yet. Theory D, deliberate staged disappearance. For Theory D to hold, Maura must have planned a permanent disappearance in advance. The crash must have been either accidental, requiring the disappearance plan to be improvised, or deliberate, requiring her to have arranged exit transportation in advance in an area she had no known contacts. She must have successfully obtained false identification and sustained an entirely new identity for over 20 years with no confirmed contact with family. The cash withdrawal of $280 must have funded this permanent life change, a very paltry sum for such a purpose. Theory D requires a high assumption count and is contradicted by several evidence items. The 1-week absence email, the small cash withdrawal, the familiar destination region, and the ongoing relationship with her boyfriend are all inconsistent with permanent planned disappearance. Theory D has low explanatory coverage. Goldilocks scoring. Each theory is scored on assumption count A, number of things that must be simultaneously true beyond direct evidence, and explanatory coverage. So we just go through this table real quick, guys. You can just kind of pause and look here. But essentially, we see the breakdown, right? What is assumption count, and then let's see. Do we have coverage? The Goldilocks score, yeah. That's what we want. So if you look at the Goldilocks score, boarded Atwood's bus, Goldilocks narrative, that's the highest. That's the highest score. We need one assumption, and we have a lot of explanatory power. Explains the scent trail direction, witness gap, cold weather behavior, and DUI motive simultaneously. The Goldilocks narrative, a full statement and explanatory analysis. The narrative. Maura Murray voluntarily boarded Butch Atwood's bus at the crash scene on Route 112 on the evening of February 9th, 2004. She did so while the bus was parked alongside her vehicle, blocking the Westman's sightline in an effort to avoid the imminent arrival of police and a probable DUI arrest. Her intention was a temporary absence, not a permanent disappearance. What happened after she boarded the bus remains unknown, but you can use your imagination. If she boarded Butch Atwood's bus and she never showed up after that, there's probably a good reason why she didn't show up. Probably a lot of very ugly felonies were committed. The motive, the DUI avoidance as temporary crisis management. The DUI avoidance motive is not speculation. It is grounded in a convergence of established facts. Maura had a prior DUI conviction. A second offense carried meaningful legal consequences, including potential license suspension, academic discipline at UMass, and possible jail time. So you see, guys, this is just more to the point. She was desperate to get out of there. I would be surprised if she didn't just walk onto the bus regardless of what Atwood said. Right? I mean, If I were in her shoes, I would have just gotten on the bus and just, explained it later. I tell the driver to take me up to your house, and I'll explain it when I get up there. Anything to get out of there, guys. Any ruse, anything to get out of there. She explicitly asked Atwood not to call police, not for help, not for an ambulance. This is beautiful. This is perfect for Atwood. But specifically not to involve law enforcement. Perfect. This is the single most behaviorally specific data point at the scene, and it points directly toward DUI avoidance as the primary concern. We don't do accusations here, but I mean, if I were Atwood and I had a penchant for this kind of behavior of, God knows what, but abduction and assault and murder and all this stuff, I mean, I would have been giddy at this situation, right? The explanatory power is deep and wide here. She claimed to have AAA or called AAA, a claim that was false. She was not seeking help. She was managing the situation to avoid police contact. It's the key part, dude. She's trying to avoid contact with the police. She had been drinking. Evidence of alcohol consumption was present in the vehicle. She is going to get a DUI, guys. Critically, the evidence profile is consistent with a temporary disappearance, not a permanent one. The cash withdrawal of $280, enough to fund days, not a new life. The email to professors requested a 1-week absence, not a resignation. Her destination region, the White Mountains of New Hampshire, was familiar, not remote and untraceable. Her relationship with Billy Roche showed no signs of severance. Maura was managing a crisis with a finite horizon. The DUI consequences, while serious, had an end date. Her plan, to the extent it was a plan, appears to have been to disappear briefly, let the immediate crisis pass and resurface. The irony, as has been noted, is that a DUI conviction would have been a minor inconvenience relative to the outcome her disappearance produced. A further dimension reinforces this framing. Maura's behavioral history prior to February 9th, 2004, listen up, demonstrates a consistent pattern of rule breaking, followed by successful consequence evasion. The drunk driving incident involving her father's vehicle the night before the crash produced no arrest. A prior theft incident at her university resolved without meaningful disciplinary outcome. She had, in short, learned through repeated experience that consequences could be absorbed and outrun. That if she could just get past the immediate moment of exposure, things would normalize. Disappearing temporarily was not foreign to her behavioral repertoire. It was the move she always made. Right? The only difference on the night of February 9th was that the exit she found did not lead where she expected. Catches up with you eventually, you might argue. The witness gap explained. One of the most analytically significant facts in this case is the complete absence of any witness observation of Maura leaving the scene on foot. The terrain at the crash location is open. Multiple people had sightlines to the area. The window between Atwood's departure and Smith's arrival was narrow, approximately 4 to 7 minutes. The cold weather further constrains the probability space. Rational behavior in freezing temperatures pushes a person toward the road, toward warmth, shelter, and passing vehicles, not into open terrain or wooded areas. The idea that Maura walked away on foot through open terrain and sub-freezing temperatures without being seen by any witness strains the evidence considerably. Theory C resolves this paradox cleanly and completely. No one saw Maura walking away because she was not walking. She was already inside the bus before the Westman sightlines were restored. The bus itself provided the concealment. No additional assumptions are required. The scent trail. The police dog tracked Maura's scent approximately 100 yards east of the crash site before losing the trail. East is the direction of the Atwood residence. This detail has never been satisfactorily explained by any theory other than Theory C. If Maura had walked west, south, or into the woods, the scent trail would not terminate to the east. If she boarded a vehicle that drove east, as the Atwood bus did, departing toward his home, the scent trail terminating to the east is precisely what one would expect. It would also be interesting to know if Atwood, at some point shortly after this happened, got back in the bus and took the bus somewhere, because I believe he did. I'd have to double check that, but that also suggests that Maura was still in the bus, even when he was at his house. She remained in the bus, hiding. And he came back out and took her somewhere else. That's something I should probably look into, guys. I'll update you on this, but I think he did take the bus somewhere. I don't know if it was to clean it or what he did, but supposedly. That may be where he removed Maura from that area. And he could have taken her to a kill site. Possible. The polygraph question. Atwood passed one polygraph examination and produced an inconclusive result on the second. This is frequently cited as exculpatory. It should not be. Polygraph examinations measure physiological stress responses, not deception. They are inadmissible in most courts precisely because their scientific validity is unestablished. An innocent person can fail. A practiced, calm, or dissociative person can pass. One inconclusive result out of 2 tests is not exculpatory. It is genuinely ambiguous. Yeah, it's ambiguous, guys, because they have found when they did try to study this that the polygraph test would give the correct answer half the time and an incorrect answer the other half the time. Right? So that is the very definition of ambiguous. It doesn't mean anything. Polygraphs are completely meaningless when it comes to guilt or innocence, deception or not deception. They're used by police to intimidate, to see if you will deny or not want to do the polygraph. The polygraph results neither confirm nor eliminate Atwood's involvement. They are not assigned weight in this analysis. Explanatory breadth as validation. The most powerful signal that Theory C is tracking the truth is not any single piece of evidence. It is the breadth of evidence the theory explains simultaneously without modification. The witness gap, explained. The cold weather, explained. The scent trail direction, explained. The explicit request to not call police, explained. The false AAA claim, explained. The behavioral profile of temporary, not permanent disappearance, explained. The absence of any confirmed sighting on foot after the bus departed, explained. No other theory in this case explains all these items simultaneously. Theory C explains them all with a single foundational assumption. The convergent explanatory power is the defining characteristic of a Goldilocks narrative. Outstanding questions and investigative implications. Accepting Theory C as the working hypothesis does not resolve the case. It redirects the investigation. The following questions become the productive focus. If Maura boarded the bus, where did Atwood take her? Or where did she disembark? The bus route that evening, including any stops or detours, should be the subject of detailed reconstruction. And if we can find out where he went after this event kind of settled down, because I don't even think the event was fully settled down when he left, if I remember right. But I could be imagining this, but we need to check that. I think he left and went somewhere. And what would really be interesting is to know if we could find out where he went. Because he can say he went anywhere, but we don't really know necessarily. Was there any witness along Route 112 east of the crash site who observed the school bus that evening? Systematic recanvassing of the specific question has apparently never been conducted with sufficient precision. Yeah, we need to go back and talk to witnesses and talk more about the school bus. Where was it? When was it there? How long was it there? At each location, we need to track that bus everywhere possible. Because my own suspicion is that she remained in the bus the whole time. What happened after Maura left the bus or the Atwood property? Theory C explains her exit from the crash scene. It does not explain her subsequent fate. The 2-decade absence of any confirmed contact with family suggests something went wrong, either in the hours immediately after or in the days that followed. She was probably assaulted. That would be the simplest explanation. She was assaulted. She was probably sexually assaulted and murdered. Has Atwood's account ever been subjected to the specific question? Did anyone board your bus between the crash site and your driveway? The framing of questions in witness interviews matters enormously. The specific question asked directly may never have been posed. The decisive test. The single piece of evidence that would most efficiently confirm or disconfirm Theory C is a witness who observed the school bus departing the scene and can state with confidence that no one was visible outside the vehicle at that moment. The open terrain means that if Maura were standing at the crash site as the bus pulled away, she should have been visible to anyone watching. If a credible witness confirms they watched the bus depart and saw no one at the car, Theory C becomes extremely difficult to displace. And that's kind of what happened. Conversely, footage, a witness, or physical evidence placing Maura at the scene after the bus had departed would require revision of Theory C. Conclusion. The Goldilocks narrative framework applied to the disappearance of Maura Murray identifies voluntary boarding of Butch Atwood's school bus as the most parsimonious explanation, consistent with the available evidence. It requires the fewest assumptions of any competing theory, achieves the highest explanatory coverage, and resolves anomalies, particularly the witness gap, the cold weather behavioral constraints, and the scent trail direction that have remained unexplained for over 20 years. The motive, DUI avoidance as crisis management with a temporary horizon, is not speculative. It is directly evidenced by Maura's explicit request that Atwood not call police, her false claim of having called AAA, her prior DUI record, and a behavioral profile inconsistent with permanent planned disappearance. Like most perpetrators, Atwood was probably giving accurate answers in all of this. He wasn't lying with everything he said. In fact, he's probably going to want to be honest about everything that doesn't matter because he doesn't want to be caught in a lie. So it's not surprising that some of the things he said would be true and some might not be. The framework does not determine what happened to Maura after she left the scene. That remains unknown. What the framework does is eliminate the probabilistic fog surrounding her exit from the crash site and redirect investigative attention to the most productive remaining questions. What was the bus's route that evening? Who was observing it? And what happened in the hours immediately after? 20 years of investigation have failed to find Maura Murray because, in significant part, the investigation has been looking in the wrong direction. The Goldilocks narrative points east, toward the Atwood property, toward the school bus, and toward a 4 to 7 minute window that has never been adequately examined. All right, guys, that's it for that one. See you again soon.